Ethan had always loved the stillness of midnight, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the glow of his laptop screen, the peace that came only when the city finally went quiet. He was wrapping up a project for work, rubbing the tension from the back of his neck, when a single, hesitant knock echoed through his apartment. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. But it was enough to shatter the calm he'd settled into. He froze. No one visited him at this hour. No one ever needed him at this hour. The knock came again, barely a whisper against the wood. "Ethan?" A voice called, soft, shaky, familiar. His heart stopped. He knew that voice. He knew its rhythm, its tone, the way it always trembled slightly whenever she was nervous. He opened the door slowly, unsure whether he was imagining it. But he wasn't. Maya stood there, hair damp from the rain, bare legs trembling from the cold, and wearing nothing but an oversized white t-shirt, one that looked suspiciously like the kind he used to sleep in when they lived together. The fabric clung lightly to her frame, soaked at the edges. She hugged her arms around herself, not from shame but from fear. Or maybe exhaustion. Ethan's chest tightened instantly, not because of how she looked, though the vulnerability of her appearance hit him hard, but because this was the last person he expected to ever see at his door again. They hadn't spoken in nearly a year. Their breakup had been final, painful, and full of words that couldn't be taken back. Yet here she was, Maya. What are you doing here?" He managed to ask, voice barely above a whisper. She swallowed, gazing down at her bare feet on the hallway floor. Raindrops rolled down her legs like tiny silver trails. She looked lost, hesitant, as if she wasn't sure whether he would slam the door in her face. I didn't know where else to go," she murmured, her voice trembling. Then she lifted her eyes, and in them he saw something he wasn't prepared for, desperation mixed with something deeper, something wounded. "We need to talk." Those 4 words cut through him. Memories surged. Their first kiss, their last argument, the nights they stayed up until sunrise sharing dreams they thought they'd chase together. The heaviness of it all settled on his chest like a weight he couldn't push off. He stepped aside silently. Maya entered with cautious steps, her bare feet making soft taps on the wooden floor. She scanned the room as though expecting something or someone to jump out. Ethan noticed it immediately. The way she kept glancing over her shoulder, the tension in her posture, the faint tremble in her hands. This wasn't just a surprise visit. Something was wrong. As he closed the door behind her, he felt the invisible shift in the air, a quiet pull that told him this night would change everything. Whether he was ready or not, Ethan watched as Maya stepped slowly into the living room, her fingers clutching the hem of the oversized t-shirt as though it were the only thing keeping her grounded. She looked small, fragile, and nothing like the confident woman he remembered. The soft glow of the lamp revealed the shadows under her eyes, exhaustion, fear, and something else he couldn't name. "Sit," Ethan said gently. Gesturing toward the couch, Maya hesitated, then lowered herself onto the edge of the cushion, as if afraid of sinking too deeply into a place that still felt like his, and once felt like theirs. Ethan sat across from her, giving her space, giving himself space, unsure what version of Maya he was about to meet. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the rain against the windows, steady and cold. Finally, Maya exhaled shakily. "I wasn't supposed to come here," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Then why did you?" Her eyes drifted from his face to her hands. They were trembling. She tried to clasp them together to steady them, but the shaking only intensified. "I thought I could handle it alone," she said, her voice barely audible. "I thought, if I ignored it long enough, it would go away." He leaned forward. "Ignored what?" A silence stretched between them, the kind that makes the air heavy, the kind that warns you something important is about to be said. Maya lifted her gaze. And Ethan saw the truth before she said it, fear. Raw, unfiltered fear. "There's something I never told you," she murmured. "Something from before we met. Something I hoped would stay buried." Ethan's heart thumped harder. He didn't speak, afraid that if he did, she'd shut down and retreat into silence. She inhaled deeply, gathering courage. "Someone from my past found me." A chill crept down Ethan's spine. "Found you? Who?" She shook her head. "Not someone you know. Not someone I ever wanted to speak of again." Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. "And I think he's been following me." Ethan's breath hitched. "Following you? For how long?" "2 days," she whispered. "Maybe more. I don't know. I kept seeing him wherever I went. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, but tonight—" She stopped, voice cracking. "Tonight he was outside my apartment." Ethan felt the room tilt slightly. The shock, the anger, the protective instinct rising so fast it nearly overwhelmed him. "Why didn't you call the police?" he asked, his voice harsher than intended. "I tried," she said quickly. "But he was gone by the time they arrived. They told me maybe it was someone who looked like him. That I shouldn't panic. And you came here?" Ethan asked, softer now. She nodded slowly. "You were the only person I trusted enough to run to." Those words hit him harder than her arrival had. "This wasn't the conversation I planned to have with you," Maya murmured, wiping a tear with the back of her hand. "But I didn't plan for any of this." Before Ethan could respond, a faint shadow moved past the living room window, soft, quick, barely noticeable. But Maya noticed it. Her entire body stiffened. Her eyes widened in terror. "Ethan," she whispered, voice breaking, "he's here." For a moment, Ethan didn't move. His breath caught, his body stiffened, and his eyes stayed locked on Maya's trembling face. She wasn't lying. The terror in her expression was too raw, too real. Whatever she saw outside was not a trick of the rain or her imagination. "Maya," he whispered carefully, "what exactly did you see?" Her voice quivered. "A shadow, tall, just standing there, watching." Ethan felt the cold prickle of adrenaline crawl up his spine. He took a slow step toward the window, not enough to be suspicious, but enough to get a better angle. The rain smeared the glass, turning streetlights into blurry halos. For a few tense seconds, he saw nothing, but then a figure shifted near the edge of the parking lot. Not walking, not running, just standing. Facing the building, Ethan's jaw clenched. He turned back to Maya, who was hugging herself so tightly her fingernails pressed into her skin. "That's him," she whispered. "I know it. I know how he stands. I know that stillness. He used to do that when he waited outside my old apartment." Ethan swallowed hard. Every protective instinct inside him surged, fierce and immediate. "Okay," he said softly, approaching her. "You're safe here. He's not coming inside." But Maya shook her head, panic rising. "You don't understand. He doesn't stop. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't care who's around. When he fixates, her voice broke. He destroyed my last relationship, Ethan. That's why I moved away. Why I started over. He would send threats, messages, pictures taken from outside my windows. He wouldn't let me live." A shiver ran through Ethan. "Why didn't you tell me all this when we were together?" Her eyes filled with guilt. "Because you were the first good thing in my life after him. I didn't want to poison what we had. I didn't want you looking over your shoulder for a man you never met. I thought I could leave my past behind." Ethan sat beside her, lowering his voice. "And instead, it followed you." She nodded, wiping her tears, though they kept coming. Ethan reached for her shaking hands. She let him hold them, something she hadn't done since the night they ended things. The warmth of her fingers in his brought a flood of memories, regrets, and unspoken words. "Why tonight?" he asked. "Why come here instead of a hotel or another friend?" Maya inhaled shakily. "Because you were the only person who ever made me feel safe, even when we fought." Her eyes softened. "I knew if I came here, you'd help me. You wouldn't turn me away." Ethan felt that in his chest, heavy, bittersweet. He stood abruptly. "I'm not letting him terrorize you again." Before Maya could respond, a sudden, sharp knock rattled the door. 3 slow taps, deliberate, echoing. Maya's blood ran cold. "That's him," she whispered, voice barely a breath. "Ethan, he followed me here." The 3 deliberate knocks echoed through the apartment like the ticking of a bomb. Maya froze, every trace of color draining from her face. Ethan stepped instinctively in front of her, positioning himself between her and the door as if his body alone could shield her from whatever waited on the other side. "Don't move," he whispered. Maya nodded. Though her trembling didn't stop. Ethan approached the door cautiously, muscles tight, heart thundering. The peephole revealed nothing, just the dim hallway bathed in flickering yellow light. No shadow, no silhouette, no sign of anyone, but that didn't reassure him. It only confirmed the danger. He stepped back, carefully locking all 3 bolts. Maya pressed her hands to her mouth. "He's playing with us," she whispered, voice cracking. "He used to do that. Knock and then disappear. Make me doubt myself." Ethan turned to her. "You're not alone now. He's not getting in here." She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Ethan knelt beside her, gently taking her wrists so he could look into her eyes. They were glossy with terror and exhaustion, but also with unmistakable relief that he was there. "Hey," he murmured, "you're safe. I promise you." Her breath hitched. "You always did that," she whispered. "Made me feel like nothing could touch me when you were around." He swallowed hard. "And that hasn't changed." Maya lifted her gaze to him, and for the first time that night, the fear in her eyes softened, replaced by something fragile, something deeper. The vulnerability between them felt almost physical, like the air had thickened, pulling them closer. Ethan tried to break the tension by shifting back slightly. "Tell me everything you remember, okay? Anything that might help." But Maya shook her head. "I will. I promise. Just give me a moment." She reached out, fingertips brushing his forearm, a touch that felt like a spark igniting tinder inside him. The contact jolted them both. Months of distance, silence, and regret evaporated under the heat of that touch. Ethan's voice dropped. "Maya, why didn't you call me sooner? Before it got this bad?" Her eyes softened with guilt and longing. "Because I was afraid. Not of him. Of you. Of opening all those old wounds again. Of standing in front of you and realizing you didn't feel anything anymore." He inhaled sharply. "You don't get it. I tried so hard to move on, but..." He stopped, but she already saw the truth in his eyes. "I missed you," she whispered. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. "I missed you too?" Silence settled between them, thick but warm, like a blanket laid over a wound. The rain outside painted moving shadows across their faces, their closeness illuminated by the gentle glow of the lamp. For a moment, the danger outside seemed distant, almost unreal, but it wasn't. A sudden scraping noise came from the hallway, metal against metal. Faint but unmistakable. Maya's fingers clamped around his arm. "He's not leaving," she whispered. "He wants me." Ethan stood, jaw tightening, his protective instincts blazing. "No," he said firmly. "He wants a fight. And this time, he's going to get one." Ethan moved quietly but decisively, every sense sharpened by adrenaline. He motioned for Maya to stay behind him as he approached the door again, this time not to look out, but to listen. The scraping sound continued, slow, rhythmic, purposeful. Not someone passing by. Not an accident. Someone was trying to tamper with the lock. Maya covered her mouth to hold back a gasp. Ethan took her by the shoulders and guided her a few steps back. "Go to the bedroom," he whispered. "Lock the door. Stay low." "No," she whispered fiercely. "I'm not leaving you alone." "Maya," he said firmly, "I need to know you're safe before I deal with him." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, retreating reluctantly toward the hallway. Ethan waited until she disappeared into the bedroom before turning his full attention to the door. The scraping stopped. Silence. Then, a clear, slow breath on the other side of the wood. Not panicked. Not hurried. A man savoring the moment. Ethan's fists clenched. "Get the hell away from my door," he called out, voice low and commanding. No reply. Just a soft, mocking chuckle. Ethan felt a surge of heat rise through his chest. He grabbed his phone and dialed a local friend, Officer Grant Taylor, a man he trusted more than the general police line. "Grant, it's Ethan," he whispered urgently. "I need you at my place, now." Grant didn't ask questions. "On my way." Ethan ended the call and grabbed a heavy metal flashlight from the kitchen drawer, the kind that doubled as a club. He held it tightly, grounding himself, preparing for whatever came next. A fist slammed against the door. Hard. Then again. Louder this time. "Ethan," a male voice drawled through the wood, low and taunting. "Why don't you open up? I think you have something that belongs to me." Ethan felt every muscle tighten. "She doesn't belong to you. She's not yours." The man laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Oh, she always runs. She always cries. But she always comes back." Ethan's blood boiled. "She's never coming back to you." Another loud slam, this time shaking the frame. Maya screamed from the bedroom. Ethan's heart lurched. And every line he intended to keep between himself and the danger vanished. He planted his feet, gripping the flashlight like a weapon, ready for the door to burst open. But suddenly footsteps echoed down the hall, fast, heavy. Then a voice thundered, "Police!" Step back from the door. Grant had arrived. The stalker's footsteps retreated instantly, disappearing down the stairwell. Grant and another officer sprinted after him, but the building's old corridors made escape easy. Within minutes, Grant returned, breathless but calm. "He's gone." "For now," Grant said. "But we got a good description. We'll put out an alert." Ethan exhaled, adrenaline fading. When Maya emerged from the bedroom, her knees nearly buckled with relief. Ethan caught her, pulling her against him as her body trembled. "You're safe," he whispered into her hair. "I'm right here." But even with the police involved, even with the danger temporarily gone, Maya clung to him with a desperation that told him the night was far from over. Danger had brought them back together, but what came next would decide whether they stayed together or broke again. After the commotion, the apartment felt strangely quiet, as if the building itself was catching its breath. Officer Grant had taken Maya's statement, reassured her that a patrol car would pass by throughout the night, and urged both of them to stay indoors until sunrise. When the door finally closed behind him, Ethan and Maya were left alone with the weight of everything that had just happened. Maya sat on the couch, legs pulled to her chest, wrapped in a blanket Ethan had brought her. Her eyes were still wide, her breathing uneven, but the terror had softened into exhaustion that seemed to seep from her bones. Ethan sat beside her, not too close, not touching, but near enough for her to feel his presence like a quiet shield. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain had slowed outside, becoming a soft tapping against the windows. The storm was finally fading. Ethan. Maya whispered. He turned to her, his heart tightening all over again. Yeah? Her fingers twisted in the blanket, knuckles white. There's something I need to tell you. The real reason I came here tonight. He nodded slowly, waiting. I didn't just come because I was scared, she said, voice trembling. I came because I was planning to leave the city. To disappear. To start over somewhere he couldn't follow. Ethan's chest constricted. The thought of her running alone, looking over her shoulder every moment, made something deep inside him ache. I thought I could do it alone, she continued. But the closer the day came, the more I realized I didn't want to leave without talking to you. Without seeing you. Without knowing if. She swallowed hard. If what I felt was still one-sided. Ethan's heart hammered. I thought time would erase you, she confessed. But it didn't, and when the fear got unbearable, you were the only person I wanted to run to. Not because you're strong or brave or logical, but because you always made me feel safe in a way no one else ever could. Ethan's voice was rough. Maya. No, let me finish, she insisted softly. I didn't just come here for help. I came because I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. Even when we weren't speaking. Even when I convinced myself we were better apart. Her voice broke, and that was all Ethan could take. He moved closer, gently placing his hand over hers. She inhaled sharply but didn't pull away. I never stopped loving you either, he admitted, relief and fear mixing in his chest. I tried. God, I tried. But you're the only person who ever mattered like this. Maya's eyes filled with tears, this time not from terror, but from release. So, she whispered, what now? Ethan thought for a moment, then spoke with steady certainty. Now we face this together. You're not running alone. Not anymore. Maya leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest, letting the warmth of him replace the cold that had clung to her for weeks. Outside. The first faint glow of sunrise began to touch the sky soft, pale, full of new beginnings. Inside, Ethan tightened his hold around her, silently promising the one thing she'd been denied for too long, a future without fear, and a love worth starting over for.